There's millions of ignorant, unconscious people out there. There are millions of uneducated, unconscious, ignorant people out there. So what they're doing is none of my business and none of my concern. I've been given certain responsibility over certain property that belongs to the government, and I'm acting within my capacity as an agent, as a private agent for the government. And that's it. What other people are doing out there because is none of my business.
Okay. I cannot put the address down as that address. Now, if you want to speak
I don't know what you
else,
can do because
if a supervisor can do that, that's fine. But unfortunately, this is all I can do at this
I'm not
point.
really striving for I'm not really striving for anything. I'm just offering some help here. I don't have an obligation to speak to any supervisors or anybody like that. I guess that's something you would have to do, or whoever is concerned with suffering a loss of this debt. That maybe that's what they would have to do. But I'm only authorized. Excuse me?
Can they speak with you since you are representing the name?
Can who speak with me?
Your supervisor.
Well, you can go back to the previous 3 or 4 or 5 recorded phone calls, and you could just get your information from that, because it's the same thing I've told you guys the last 3, 4, 5 times I spoke to you guys on these calls that were so-called recorded for quality purposes. So you guys need to review those calls, review those recordings, and figure out what you guys are going to do from there. If you're going to take my suggestions and what I advise you to do, or you're not. It's just like if you walk into some other governmental building and you're seeking some sort of services or something, and that you either follow their direction and advice of what they tell you to do, or you just have a nice day. I mean, I can't. There's nothing else I can do other than to direct you back to the principal. The principal. I mean, you know, I'm the authorized user and the agent. I'm not the principal. I'm not the owner. So, you know, there's nothing I can do. I mean, you know, unless you guys contact these people, you guys are not going to collect on anything. You can go to court and you could get a judgment and get a garnishes of whatever. It doesn't matter, because I don't work for money. So you're never going to, you know, Nelnet is never going to get it from the authorized user. You're never going to get it from the agent, because the agent doesn't work for money in that name as the name. And so if you want to, you know, take some advice or suggestions from the agents in the hopes that you will collect on the alleged debt, I think that would be the best thing to do.
Well, at this point in time, Nelnet they're not our loans that we lended. So it's the Department of Education that lended the loans to the name. What happens is, if there's nothing done, because we cannot bill them, and then that's all there is to it, unfortunately.
Well, what could you explain to me? Give me a good understanding as to why Nelnet cannot bill the principal. Give me a good reasonable understanding. Yes, why can't Nelnet contact the Treasury, let the Treasury know, look, this name in your account, in your information, owes a debt. The person who is authorized to use this name told us to contact you. Why can't Nelnet do that? Because I don't have an obligation to try to make efforts to help Nelnet collect on an alleged debt. I don't have that obligation. Okay, because to me, it's just an alleged debt. So therefore, all the efforts to collect on the debt needs to be performed by Nelnet, not me. So I don't understand, why is it so impossible or unlawful or illegal for Nelnet to contact the principal or send a bill there? Show me how is that illegal, or how is that unlawful? Could you explain to me how that is illegal, unlawful, or impossible? Could you explain that to me?
It's impossible because the United States Treasury did not sign this promissory note.
But hold on. The United States Treasury, okay, is the owner of the legal name that appears on that note. Okay, that name on that note is property of the government. Okay, and once more, in addition to that, the United States is the only party that is responsible for supplying currency.
Okay.
I don't care how much millions of people in the country volunteer to supply it. They don't have the obligation to do it. That's why when they do it, it's voluntary. They don't have an obligation. They take on the obligation and volunteer, but that is a function of the United States government and the banks to supply currency. It's their responsibility. They have the primary obligation. The people take on a secondary obligation. So the primary obligation is with the government to supply the payment of currency and to pay the bills. Yeah, so once again, I'm going to refer you to the Secretary of the Treasury's website and to go over what the responsibilities and the duties of the Secretary of the Treasury of the United States is. And you will see listed among those duties and responsibilities that one of them is to pay all U.S. bills. Pay all bills in the U.S. Okay, so if Nelnet is the drawer and they've drafted a bill, well then obviously you can confirm on that website, if you choose to follow up on my leads or not, that you will see this is exactly the responsibility of the Secretary of the Treasury. He who holds the office of Secretary of Treasury. That's his responsibility, to see that the bills are paid, the U.S. bills are paid. Okay, it's not my responsibility to supply that as just an authorized user and a private agent. It's not mine.
Sir, I understand that you don't want to take the responsibility for it. That's fine.
It's not that I don't want to. I'm not under an obligation to. That's the point. Legally, I am not under an obligation to take the responsibility. So it's not that I don't want to. It's even if I did want to, there's no way that I can do that because it's illegal.
On the promissory note that the United States Treasury has to repay this debt. It says that Kevin C. George, and as the representative for that name, you are required to repay this debt.
Who is required to pay the debts?
Kevin C. George.
Okay, well, Kevin C. George is an instrumentality of the United States. That's Kevin C. George, his property and part of the United States. Kevin C. George is a United States employee. Kevin C. George is a member or a United States person. So you need to contact who Kevin C. George's principal is. I'm not the principal. I'm the authorized user. I'm the agent. Kevin C. George is just a thing.
So let me ask you this. As the representative or the authorized user, we at Nelnet and as a representative of Nelnet can be able to get this account current. Okay? You representing Kevin C. George and me representing Nelnet can do that. In order for the name Kevin C. George to not have any negative effect on it. I understand where you're coming from with the U.S. Treasury.
Well, look, the United States debt is like about probably $20 trillion right now. So they are suffering from a lot. I totally understand. You understand? Because this is nothing new. Obviously, when they're facing a 20-something trillion plus dollar debt, that puts a debt upon every individual man or woman that assumes to be one of their citizens or resident to be responsible for about $80,000. I mean, obviously, it reflects on the debt clock. So it's nothing new to me, but there's no obligation for me to take on any responsibility in settling the matter.